We're joined now here in the studio by the Conservative peer Nigel Lawson, who said in yesterday's debate that staying in a customs union amounted to quasi-colonial status. Isn't that an exaggeration, Nigel Lawson? I mean, this is just the start. There are more votes to come. Are you really that concerned?
Well, first of all, this was entirely a political debate. It was dressed up as a trade debate, but it wasn't really a trade debate at all. There was no economic merit in what has been proposed at all. And indeed, as an indicator of that, not merely was I opposed to the proposal, but the crossbench peer, Lord Mervyn King, the former governor of the Bank of England, who knows a thing or two about economic policy, he voted against it. It's a political thing. It's in trying to reverse the referendum thing. And what I was making, the point to which you refer, was that if we are in a customs union, without being in the European Union as such, we are being governed, in effect, by the European Union. And that is what I call the quasi-colonial status.
Right. Do you think what happened in the Lords, bearing in mind it was a fairly broadly worded amendment, do you think it might compel the government to soften its stance in terms of becoming part of a customs union with the EU?
I hope not, because it makes a nonsense. You can't effectively leave the European Union unless you leave, as the government has made absolutely clear, and as we made it clear during the Brexit campaign, without leaving both the customs union and the single market. I mean, the legitimacy of what the Lords have done is to say, well, it is reasonable on an important issue as this for the House of Commons to think again. But if the House of Commons thinks again and decides not to support this amendment or anything like it, then I think the House of Lords, the unelected House of Lords, would be very ill-advised to pursue its objections. I mean, there is always the case where the two houses are at odds of the peers versus the people. But in this case, it's not merely the people's elected representatives in the Lords, but the people of this country who voted clearly in a referendum that they wanted to leave the European Union.
But people like Chris Patten aren't going to back down or change their tune, are they?
No, there are a few fanatics, I agree, who won't back down. But I think the majority of sensible peers will realise that at the end of the day, if the House of Commons thinks again, then we in the House of Lords should accept that the House of Commons is the democratically elected House and accept its views. But
Michael Gove has today said that ministers might struggle to overturn the Lords' amendment when it comes to the House of Commons. What is your message to MPs like Ken Clarke, who's going to be with us in a few moments' time, when it does go to the Commons?
The House of Commons is going to make up its own mind, and the House of Commons will, I hope, realise, certainly on the Conservative side, and there are incidentally some very good Labour MPs who are firmly against remaining in the European Union. But I think that the Conservative MPs in particular should recognise that they were elected on a manifesto which committed the government, the Conservative government, were there to be a Conservative government elected, to accept the result of the referendum and to implement it in law.
Do you have confidence that Theresa May is going to implement the sort of Brexit you want to see?
I think she wants to. She's obviously in a weak position in the sense that she has no overall majority and depends for a tenuous majority on the votes of a group of Irish members. But she is also Northern Irish members, but she also has support, quite considerable support, not huge, but I think sufficient, among the Labour Party. There are people in the Labour Party. I was, for a short time, chairman of Vote Leave, and on Vote Leave we had all parties represented. It wasn't a Conservative organisation.
Right. What do you say to Labour members who would side and do side with Nigel Lawson when it comes to this issue of Brexit meaning out of the single market, out of the customs union? And of course Labour would like to see a customs union with the EU.
Well, the mandate that the British people gave Parliament was to leave the European Union. Now, Norway's outside the European Union, but it's in the economic area. It's part of the customs union. It's part of the free market.
It's not part of the customs union.
But it is part of the free market.
Yes.
So in that sense, that doesn't mean that they have a blank check to go to ever talk. The real extremists, I think, are the people who want to abolish all connections that we have with the European trade area. And I don't think that's the mandate that we got from the British people.
Right. I mean, you describe Chris Patten and a few others as fanatics. Do you accept that they probably feel the same about you?
I don't know. I haven't asked them. But they'd be very foolish if they do. There's nothing fanatical about me.
Or your position that you hold on the EU?
Not at all, no.
I mean, what's wrong with having a common schedule of external tariffs across the EU on imports of goods?
What this is about is whether we are capable of becoming once again a self-governing democracy, whether we are capable of governing ourselves, or whether we wish to be governed by the European Union, of which it is presumed we would be a part, but a rather fringe part, because, and this has changed the position quite a lot, we decided not to be fully in, but to be half in and half out. That's to say, we're not part of the monetary union. And it is only those who are also part of the monetary union who are fully in. And I think the British people feel that we are capable of governing ourselves.
But what's fanatic about that view? I mean, what's fanatic about the view that says that we should be part of a common schedule of external tariffs?
What is the point of being a common schedule of external tariffs? It's
it might help solve the border issue with Northern Ireland.
No, there isn't a border issue with Northern Ireland. This is ramped up in order to try and reverse the referendum result. It is grossly irresponsible to say that if you have to make some adjustments at the border, they will be modest, but there will need to be some adjustments at the border, then this will lead to the undoing of the Belfast Agreement, and it will lead to a resumption of terrorism in Northern Ireland. There is no substance in that. It is irresponsible scaremongering.
Nigel Lawson, thank you.